Right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for Clive for the nice introduction there, and to Kevin as well. That was an interesting intro. Fortunately, both of those have done me the favour of not having to do any of the general background stuff, because this is about a particular, I can't even say market, a particular set of markets, which is going to be extremely important for the UK going forward. We're going to do some individual markets a bit later on in the afternoon, and the good thing is there's somebody within this room who's actually, their product has actually been shown to people in Japan who liked the product. So that's a good selling point to start with. Very, very small introduction, but the reaction to that was fantastic. But that's for this afternoon. For now, we're going to talk about the market itself. Very short time to do a presentation about an extremely huge undertaking, but I'll do the best I can. And primarily, not just to explain what the CPTPP is about, but to try and dig into a little bit of the intricacies of it. In a very short presentation, less than 20 minutes, we can't tell everything that's happened within the agreement, certainly not everything which is contained in the agreement. What I've tried to do is bring out the salient points without being too technical. So we'll start the presentation. Conversations last night, people saying to me, what does CPTPP mean? First of all, can I say it? Is it CPTPP? I'm looking at somebody who's never really been able to say that, but well done today. Were you standing in front of a mirror looking at that way? But if the interesting thing, if you look at, that's what it says, Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership. This is actually a bit of an onshoot from the TPP, which Donald Trump pulled America out of. But you can see now why we call it CPTPP. Trips off the tongue a lot better. So that's what this is about. Right, those are the countries involved, excluding one important participant, us. This is CPTPP when we started to talk to them. Well, I've put it in now, but essentially it's 11 other people. First spread. Look on the internet. This is the map you will see of the CPTPP nations. Part of this presentation, part of the things that we do everywhere we go to talk about CPTPP is to try and dispel some of the myths. You look at that and people say, fine, Keith, but I mean, look at those are in North America, South America, those are in the Indo-Pacific, that sort of stuff. So we thought we'd do something clever. And it looks a bit different now, doesn't it? Because essentially, when we were part of the, as Clive says, we don't use the word, part of the EU, one of our great selling points was that we were a bridge between North America, Europe, Asia, and North America. That still is the case as such. And I'm hoping, and the people I'm talking to who will listen to me, if you put that map up, it makes it look a fair bit different. And so this is it in writing, in numbers. Makes quite interesting reading as well. We've got the latest figures there, 2023, 2020. So you've got the World Bank figures, etc. The important one there, I think, in my experience, is the ease of doing business. Because some of those you can see are, 60, 66, 75. We'll be talking about Japan a bit later on. I've been working with Japan for many years. Lovely people, but quite difficult to work with. In my experience, you cross the T's, dot the I's, and then you go back and you cross the T's, dot the I's, and then you go back again and they say, can you cross the T's and dot the I's? We're hoping with all of this, not all of it will go, but a fair part of it will go. So the ease of doing business will start to take some of the stress off our companies, large and small, working with the CPTPP. So there's just some figures there which are, it's just indicative. Existing FTA, which is important because as you'll see as we go through the slides a bit later, this does have an impact. But as you can see there, at the time of doing this slide, at the time of writing, there was only one country who we didn't have an FTA with, free trade agreement. You will see that that's changed because of this. what I've done there on the last 2 points, I think is very, very important. For me, particularly when I'm talking to exporters, when they say, how far is it, Keith? And how long does it take to get there? Okay, looks like a long time. And of course, to get to places like Japan, it's a bit further now because you're not being able to fly over Russia. But if you invest the time and the effort to get into these markets, my own experience is once you're in there, it takes time to do it. They're very, very good people to work with. So you can see there, it takes a while to get there sometime. A bit later on this afternoon, we'll give you the time zones and the differences, that sort of thing, which is important. And I think, really speaking, I won't leave you to look at that too long because I think, like me, you tend to go a bit cross-eyed. But it does explain the situation to you a bit clearer, I think. So those first slides there will show you, okay, there's a fair distance between the markets. There's a fair, should we say, divergence between the markets. There's Japan itself, I think, world number 3 economy, that sort of thing. There's much further down this scale. The important thing is they're all in it, including ourselves, because we all want to work together, and that's key. So this is where we get to the nitty-gritty. I don't like to put too much detail into my presentations if I can help it. So I've trimmed all of these slides down about 25 times so far, but still I can only get it down to where we're looking at the moment. That's very, very important there. The 6th and final ratification. It's a situation of we needed 6 countries to agree to us joining for it to actually be ratified. And I think down here it says Peru was the latest one, just after I got back from Japan, actually. And so it comes into force 15th of December. So what's that? That's just over a month from now. Not everybody will be able to partake in it, as far as we're concerned, until they ratify. And I've got a separate slide in the presentation this afternoon, which shows, it tells you there, but it sort of highlights it better, who's ratified it and who's not. The ones who've not ratified it, 1 or 2 of them is politically motivated, I think, but it will be sorted sooner or later. And also 1 or 2 of the others who've not ratified it yet, they tend to take things a bit slowly anyway. But the main thing is we're in. Important, 99% of current exports, tariff-free. It's very, very important indeed. And then we'll be looking at the import side of it as well. It's going to make a big difference to the cost base of a lot of companies. Bottom line, I actually think it's very, very important because it was, I suppose you'd call it a members club originally. They set it up a fair few years ago. We are the first country to actually apply to join. And as such, we were sponsored by Japan. And as such, the UK application is classed as the gold standard. So anybody else, and there's a list a bit later on of who's queuing up to come in afterwards, everybody else has to exceed or fit to the gold standard, which is the UK standards. And I think that's a really positive thing for us because we've set the bar high there and people have to get to that bar to do it. Interesting. A lot of people say to me, well, we've already got a free FTA with this country and this country. So what? CPTPP, what does that do? It does go further, and there's another slide later. It does go further in some cases. And also, you can not pick and choose. You can select which is the best part of either the FTA or the CPTPP, which is going to be most favourable to your business. Rules of origin is very important. We've got people in a room here. I'm looking at a couple of them at the moment, and you say rules of origin, and you can see the eyes crossing. It is going to be significantly more easy, and I'm already working with a client who's actually found that working with Vietnam, it will be a big difference to that particular company because similar to when we used to be in the EU, if the actual component parts are within the bloc, then they're classed as the rules of origin will be most favourable. Flexible rules. I think you need to take them on with a pinch of salt. The rules will be a lot easier working with countries like Vietnam and countries like that. But it won't change overnight. It can't change overnight. But a lot of the things which are in here, which are going to come on the next few slides, and we'll talk about later on, are smoothing the situation. And don't forget, this is an ongoing thing, not just ongoing people who want to join, but as the organisation grows, we'll actually be modifying the systems to fit in better, because don't forget, we're a different culture to all of the other 11 members. So they've got to get used to our culture, we've got to get used to their culture. But the interesting thing is, it's all voluntary. None of it is, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. It will all be agreed on a mutual basis. First two, fairly straightforward. Flick straight there to goods. Reducing the tariffs on 95% of goods. It's difficult to really explain how important that could be, because if you're talking to somebody, again, looking at Dominic, people like that, you look at the add-on cost for some of these goods to get rid of a lot of those tariffs, it's going to make a really big difference to a lot of our companies. Customs procedures, it's, as I say, I've been working with one particular company with Vietnam. I'll be perfectly honest with you, it's been a nightmare. It's not going to improve overnight, but it most certainly will improve when this comes in. And the supply chain as well. You've seen the countries listed there. Again, we'll go through it a bit later on. But quite a few of the countries within this block will make equivalent alternative supply chains for quite a lot of our manufacturers, in my opinion. Section for investors. If we look at this dispute settlement mechanism, it's all a question really of bringing everything together structurally, but without making it tied in as we do with the EU. Nothing's mandatory as such, and you'll see as part of that there, you can almost pick and choose parts that you can apply. Government procurement, this is an interesting one, because anybody that's worked with the public sector, you will know that it's not always easy to get a contract. We've tried to, in some of the businesses we work with, we tried to get contracts in different countries. And you know for a fact, as soon as you make the application, that because you're British and you're applying in a different country, you know straight away, you're probably starting from there rather than there. So that will be, I won't say it will be eradicated straight away, because human nature says if you're a Malaysian company, you're going to be looking at Malaysian Malaysian companies to sort of do the procurement. But as time goes by, I think you'll find that we'll get a greater opportunity to do those sort of contracts. IP, extremely important. Countries like Japan, to be fair, have always had a good reputation. You could pretty well bank on, if you've got a superb product or a service, great idea, you could pretty well bank on it. If you join with a Japanese company, it won't be abused. All of these countries in this agreement now are going to be working together to make sure that is the case. And then you've got labour and environment and standards as well. Bear in mind, all of these bullet points I'm making here, in the actual agreement, there are probably 3 or 4 pages. So I'm just trying to take the salient points. I can refer you to the thing if you'd like to read it in full, if you're having trouble sleeping. But joking apart, it's very, very important. Interesting professional qualifications. Some of us here have got professional qualifications. A lot of the businesses we work with have got professional qualifications, which wouldn't have been applicable in some of these countries before. But now, they can use them overseas as well. Financial services. An awful lot of the FTAs we've had in the past, especially in previous years with the EU, specifically excluded financial services, which, as we all know, is a huge part of our economy. There are parts in the agreement which actually includes financial services, giving legal certainty and that sort of stuff. And as these markets grow, I think that's going to be very, very important. One of the markets, Singapore, for example, classic case. Mobility. We've got clients that we're working with. Clive and Trish know a couple of them who actually have training courses. They have people who go into different countries to train technicians. At the moment, they can go there for 3 months without a visa, which isn't enough time. This will, I think, it elongates it to minimum 6 months. So it gives people who've got training courses or advisory courses, that sort of thing. They don't have to go through the hassle of getting a visa. They can go over for 6 months, maybe come back and then go back again if necessary. But it's all a way of encouraging people to travel within the market, and that can include with the professional qualifications as well. Digital trade, electronic. I don't understand all of this, if I'm perfectly honest with you, but have a read of it. It's quite interesting. Services, remove a lot of access barriers, and some of these markets are going to be huge for us. Now, that's interesting, because if you remember the third slide, and I'm sure you've all memorised it, the only country there without an FTA with the UK was Malaysia. Well, we've got one now. We were talking about supply chains earlier, and Malaysia is going to be one of the countries which is going to pick up a lot of the slack, I think. Vietnam and Malaysia from China as we go forward. But now this agreement has actually brought us into a situation where Malaysia are on board. So that's going to be very, very interesting for us. 34th largest export destination. Doesn't sound a great deal as such. Growing already, it can only grow bigger now. If you look at those tariffs there, 80%, 30% of exports of cars, that sort of. So those are sector specific. Bottom line is very, very important. I was a bit surprised about this one, if I'm perfectly honest with you, because everybody I've been speaking to for the last 3 years, we started the negotiations in 2021. My understanding as we've been going through it, as we got closer and closer, that the next one on the list would have been South Korea. Not there for some reason, I don't know why, but these are the people who are queuing up to join. And bear in mind, anybody, how can I put this politely? Anybody we don't want to see in there, we have a veto. I mean, that's human nature, isn't it, as such? And if you look at that, based on what we know, what we understand about the way that the bloc, CPTP bloc works, if you look at China, I don't think there's a lot of things in amongst that which doesn't fit the profile of the country that would want to be a part of this, I don't think. Not my decision, but straight away, I think if you're going to be looking, and then you're going to have the situation where there are going to be certain countries, if, for example, Taiwan were to get in, then I don't think China would be, and vice versa. So it's all geopolitics is very, very important. But the important thing is, you look at some of these countries, you look at the geographical spread, and you look at the type of businesses, because in those countries, there are all specific industries which we can be working with. To flip back to the early slide, I didn't realise till I was working with a company in mid Wales actually, on how important Peru is, one of the members, with chemicals. So just imagine in those markets there, what beauties might be in there which we don't know about at the moment. Speaking of which, this one last slide before we go to the markets. This is just a general overview, which we've done this presentation in North Wales for a number of years now. This is totally different pretty well to the first one we did, which is quite right because we're members now. But this has always been important for us. It's a relatively low-cost way. No clear drawback, shall we say. These are all high-growth countries who we're going to be looking to work with. They all want to work with us, which is key. Gives us a seat at the table with these particular markets. All growing, and South America as well. Think of it from their point of view. We're looking at the advantages for the UK working with all these diverse countries, that sort of stuff. Think of it from their point of view. World's fifth largest economy. Plus, as I said, we're the stepping stone. If you're on that side of the map, stepping stone into this side, and vice versa. And of course, we had that same privilege within the EU. Commonwealth. We're a great believer within ITSG, and it's really, really undersold, and I'm sure Clive and Trish will agree with this. Commonwealth itself is really undersold as a way for us to move business forward, because I don't like the word club, but again, we're all like-minded countries who want to work together. It's too much diversified to work together as a trading block, I think. We are trying to work together in different parts. But some of the members of this are actually part of the Commonwealth as well. Bottom line, very important. I've seen various figures about the largest trading blocks in the world. Adding the UK in there, reports I've said it would be bigger than the EU. Other people might argue. Everyone's got their point of view as such. What is for sure is that this will only grow. And it will only grow with growing countries. And I suppose the important thing is that we're actually in there influencing that. So we're going to do specifics this afternoon. First of all, just throw this one in. If you get a chance to have a look at this, it's really interesting because it just shows you where the FTAs we've got, the free trade agreements we've got, how the CPTPP takes things forward. There are a few holes there which we'd like to get sorted out in the future. They probably will be filled in at some stage, but at the moment everybody's got their own issues which they don't want to give up at this particular moment in time. As time goes by, I'm sure that some of those holes will be filled. Some very important parts in there which have been filled already. If we look at financial services is one of them. So these are the markets. We're going to be looking at it in more specifics later. To be fair, these are UK government figures, and the UK government, Welsh government, all governments, in fact, have their favoured sectors, particular sectors. Anybody in this room who's in a business outside of those sectors goes without saying there's a good chance that you could get into these countries anyway. These are the main focus of the main governments. And you'll see food and drink is in a lot of those markets there. And I think we're going to find, especially with the CPTP thing, food and drink is going to grow incrementally. And as I say, there's one gentleman in here whose products has actually been shown in Japan and they loved it. I think that's it. So I think that's me done.